Manx Radio Sport.
A very good evening and welcome to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio once again. I'm Rob Pritchard with you on this packed programme until 6:30pm. Coming up tonight, a crucial tie at the bottom of the Canada Life Men's Premier League is among the pick of the ties in the Manx Football Leagues this weekend, whilst FC Isle of Man are back on home soil tomorrow afternoon. In hockey, a dramatic final weekend in the mixed league season awaits, with 2 titles up for grabs and a huge relegation decider. And in rugby, Douglas, Vagabonds Men's and Vagabonds Ladies are all in action tomorrow, whilst the Ravenscroft Manx Shield also returns after a week's break. That is all to come this evening. Let's dive straight into the Manx footballing fixtures taking place this weekend. We were due to have one game this evening. That is not going to be taking place. We'll come to that in a moment. But games across Saturday and Sunday as ever. And as always, he's back in the studio again to talk us through it. Tony, very good evening to you.
Good evening to you, Rob. And all set for another weekend. And we got the World Cup to contend with as well. So a lot of footy going ahead.
You're going to be shooting away from this once we're finished with you, aren't we, to try and get yourself behind a TV screen?
Try my best.
Well, as I mentioned, we were due to have one game in the Canada Life Women's League this weekend between Douglas Royal and Peel at 8:40pm tonight. But Tony, that's not going ahead, is it?
Yeah, unfortunately, Douglas Royal didn't have enough players. They couldn't get a squad together. Shame for Peel, because it seems to be sort of them that are getting penalised at the moment, because recent game against Castletown last week was called off about 15 minutes before kick-off. Douglas Royal, for whatever reasons today, just couldn't get enough together. And a bit of a story on that at the moment. You know, with women's football losing 1 or 2 games, I know some are injured, commitments obviously to family and also to work as well. So it's proven a little bit of a problem, but hopefully it'll sort itself out in the next few games and we'll get back to standard football.
Hopefully so. Let's look to Saturday then. Games across the Canada Life Men's Premier League, Division 2, Combi 1 and Combi 2. Let's take a look first of all at the Canada Life Men's Premier League. We do have one game off, so 5 going ahead, including a huge clash at the bottom between St George's and Moran. So Tony, take us through it.
Will do. And Douglas Royal against Ayres being postponed. Douglas Royal's pitch, I believe, is struggling. They played on it last week, and this is where it can sort of go against you. You think you're okay, you play on it, you cut it up, you can't sort of abandon it halfway through, and then you can't get on it with the weather that's been there this week, and they haven't been able to quadruplay it. So unfortunately, that game has gone. St John's against Ramsey. What a great game this is going to be. St John's last week looked impressive against Corinthians. Corinthians did as well, but it's a right old battle, and Sam Brown's got a real strong team there. And when you look at probably the 2 forward top players won't be playing in Callum Taggart and also Dean Leese, so the responsibility will be people like Jamie Moffat and others to try and get the goals. But what a great scoreline for Ramsey 7 days ago against Douglas Royal, winning 8-2. That's incredible, that, because Ramsey been struggling of late. Touched on that last week, but they put it right last week. Good performance, and they want to try and get into the Descartes Railway Cup semi-finals. Russian against Corinthians. Well, Stewie Neen stepped down as coach for Russian this week. So it's Nick Robinson who's got sole control of the team, and we'll wait and see how that goes against Corinthians. By the sound of it, no Furu Davies, because he's included in the FC Isle of Man squad. Corinthians, no Chrissy Cannell, just resting him after his first game back for a long, long time last week. Just wants to take it easy. No Adam Killier, the goalkeeper, has now got a red card, misses 3 games. So Jack Corran will come in. Jack's a really good goalkeeper. He's a promising young player. So I would think Corinthians might just win that one. I know it's home advantage for Russian. Peel against Onken. Onken have been really good too against the better teams, and they'll be hoping to see David Reese's squad if it can get the points away from Peel. But Peel at the moment being a lot of people's sort of choice to try and win this Canada Life Premier League. St George against Moran, as you say, down towards the bottom of the table, but Kieran McNulty now has stepped away from FC Isle of Man. He's deregistered and he's going to play for St George's, I would think. No Sean Quay, he'll be suspended, but Chris Bass will be included in that. So I think Johnny Myers is happy enough with the squad he's got, and Moran are going to find it difficult to beat them. And Laxey against Douglas High School Old Boys. Laxey, I've seen their team. I'll keep it secret until tomorrow afternoon, but it's pretty strong, that, Rob, and I can only see Johnny Palmer's team taking all the points away from a struggling Douglas High School Old Boys team who could do with some points to get them away from the bottom of the table. But tomorrow afternoon I don't see it happening, and let's just hope Laxey's pitch is fit after what rain's coming in tonight and also a little bit tomorrow morning.
Not revealing the team, teasing us this evening. All right, let's move on to DPS Limited Division 2. Now, one of the big results from last week was, of course, St Mary's suffering their first defeat of the season at the top of the table, and emphatically so. 6-1, they were beaten by Castletown, and St Mary's are home against Foxdale this weekend. Colby hosts Castletown among the 4 games that are taking place.
Yeah, I think the St Mary's game is kicking off at 4:30 because FC Isle of Man are playing tomorrow. It's just purely that they couldn't get the team Charnock off the Isle of Man on Sunday because there's training going on down at Ronaldsway. So the team came in early, or coming in early. I think they come today actually. They're staying overnight, and then tomorrow morning they'll be down the bowl. I'm pretty certain about 11:30, ready for the game to kick off at 1 o'clock. But yeah, bit of a shock that, wasn't it, Rob? Last week against Castletown, against Foxdale, it's going to be as tough as well. But St Mary's had a really good training session last night, a lot of ball work, so hopefully they're back on song, and St Mary's will be hoping to beat Foxdale. When you look at the other games, Michael against Governors, you'd expect Michael to win. They're absolutely flying. I know they've dropped a few points of late, but still looking good. Jim's against Ramsey Youth Centre. I have to go for Ramsey Youth Centre to win that, even though Jim's are at home. I think the pitch will be a little bit sticky. And the final game, real southern derby, Colby against Castletown. No love lost between these two sides, but I mean that in a friendly way, Rob. It's not going to be fisticuffs. But Castletown, Danny Lane last week, absolutely brilliant with those 3-4 goals that he got. And I expect him to try and prove a point against one or two players that he used to play with, who play for Colby. And I think they're going to find it tough, Colby, and that's why Castletown will take the points.
Very well, let's look at the Combination League. Start with Canada Life Combi 1. We've got 5 games there. Yeah,
it's always difficult to pick these because squad rotation, but Ayr against Douglas Royal. I'm going to go for Ayr to pick up the points in that one. Ramsey against St John's. St John's battered Corinthians 7 days ago, so I'm going to go for St John's to win that. I think Liam Sale, tremendous form. I think he got 4 of the goals. Corinthian against Russian. Very young side, Corinthians, but Russian high flying at the top of the league, so I'd expect Russian to win there. Onken against Peel. Going to go for Peel. I think Peel know that they've just got to keep winning and hope that Russian slip up somewhere. And Douglas High School Old Boys against Laxey. Old Boys near the bottom of the table. Laxey should have enough quality in there to take the points away from Old Boys.
And then finally on Saturday, there are 4 games in DPS Limited Combination 2.
Yeah, Ramsey Youth Centre going well in Combi 2, so I'll go for them to have victory against Jim's. Braddon against Pulrose. Braddon, I watched a few of their little dream young players that are coming through in the under-18s midweek. Even though they got beat, there's some impressive players coming through the ranks there against the Pulrose side who have got 1 or 2 really good players, and it makes it difficult to break them down. They might be the difference to get the goals. I'll just go for Pulley just to sneak that. Foxdale against St Mary's. St Mary's know if they're going to win this league, they've got to keep winning, and against Foxdale, I think they will. Looking at the combi last night, they were training well, worked hard. And Castletown against Colby should go to Castletown, depending on how strong Colby's team is.
Well, those are your fixtures for Saturday. 3 fixtures on Sunday. We'll start with the Canada Life Women's Floodlit Cup, kicking off at 20-4 tomorrow at the Bowl, and that's Malou versus Corinthians.
Yeah, and Corinthians at the moment with that sneaky win against Onken, 2-0 down, and then got 3 goals in the second half to take victory 3-2. I know Corinthians a little bit light on players at the moment, but I have to say, Rob, Malou, to say they're back in women's football, I was really impressed with them the other night when I watched them play a couple of weeks ago, and well done to them because a lot of them haven't played football before, and tremendous hockey players, so they were fit, and it was really good to watch. I enjoyed watching that game, and I've got to go for Corinthians just to win it.
Very well, and last but certainly not least, we have 2 games in the Masters football on Sunday.
Yeah, Corinthians against Onken, this 2 p.m. kickoff up at Ballafletcher. All my boys are looking pretty good. Hopefully they won't be having a shandy or 2 tomorrow night. But Onken have got a strong squad. They're not sharing it with me, so I'm going to go for Corinthians just to win it. And Douglas and District against Governors Athletic, 2:10 kickoff at the Bowl. Governors, I think, will just be a little bit too strong for D&D. D&D has struggled twice this year to field a team. Just transition, I think it is for them. New players coming in, so Governors take the victory.
Very well, those are your Manx footballing fixtures this weekend. Well, we've got just a couple of minutes, so we'll take a brief look at FC Isle of Man. They'll be looking to reverse a recent run of 3 defeats on the bounce in all competitions when they welcome Charnock Richard to the Bowl tomorrow afternoon. The game is kicking off at the earlier time of 1 p.m. This is due to a training exercise being held at Isle of Man Airport on Sunday, meaning Charnock Richard wouldn't have been able to travel back, so they're having to travel back on Saturday evening instead. Well, Charnock Richard, they beat FC Isle of Man 5-1 at Mossy Park back at the start of October. October, but they themselves are looking to recapture a little bit of form. Whilst FC Isle of Man are down in 19th in the table, Charnock Richard are in a steady place in 10th, but trying to come off back-to-back defeats in their last 2 games in all competitions. We can just bring you the squad very quickly for FC Isle of Man tomorrow, and that is James Rice, Phil Kelly, Jamie Corlett, Jacob Crook, Alex Maitland, Tom Shimmin, Morgan Naylor, Tiernan Garvey, Charlie Higgins, Dominic McCarry-Brennan, Dan Simpson, Steve Whitley, Carl Watson, Tom Creer, Fura Davies and Luke Murray. And you can see more details on that, as well as an extended interview with manager Paul Jones looking ahead to this weekend and recent results over on the sports section of manxradio.com. Well, Tony, we've got around 90 seconds or so here. You won't be joining me in the commentary booth this weekend. We'll have a very special guest co-commentator in your place, a certain Sean Doyle, who'll be very familiar to FC Isle of Man fans. We're very much looking forward to having him on board. But looking to this weekend, both teams with a little bit of a point to prove with recent results. FC Isle of Man, they'll have known Charnock Richard's quality. They're really going to have to step it up across 90 minutes, aren't they?
Well, they are, and it's at home, so it'll help things. And 1 o'clock kickoff, bit of a strange time for them because they've been playing in darkness over here a lot of the time, and they'll be playing in daylight, so it does help them a little bit, I think. But listening to the squad there's still a few of the more experienced players missing out there, but there's still some good young players coming through, and Dominic McCarry-Brennan's certainly a star for the future. He'll come in, and good to see Dan Simpson in for that left hand side. But Luke Murray, a lot of responsibility for him up front, but defensively, while I was looking at the league tables today, Rob, they concede an awful lot of goals and they're not scoring enough goals, so they need to score more, obviously, and defend better. So hopefully Paul's been sort of looking at that. I heard his interview before, and try and tighten things up and get the attack going as well.
We'll have to wait and see. Well, if you're not heading down to the Bowl for FC Isle of Man versus Charnock Richard, kicking off at 1 p.m. tomorrow, we've got you covered on Manx Radio as ever. Full live match commentary of tomorrow's game between the two sides on Manx Radio AM 1368 and digital. Well, Tony, thank you very much. Enjoy your time watching the Manx football tomorrow, and I'll be catching up with you very soon. Well, we're now going to move on to hockey, and it's the final weekend of the mixed Manx hockey season, and what a final showdown we are in for. Whilst both the Division 2 and Division 3 champions have been confirmed, the Premier League and Division 1 titles are still to be decided in the final round of games. Two old foes and the current title challengers meet in the Premier League for a huge contest, whilst two teams are level on points at the top of Division 1 going into the weekend in the quest to become champions. So how might this go down, and what will different results mean? I spoke to Ben Cunningham ahead of this epic weekend. So we are now approaching the grand finale of the Mixed Hockey League season. Let's take a look at the next fixtures in the Rossborough Mixed Premier League. Early pushback, 12:35 at QE2, and it's Valkyrie against Castletown Celts.
This one I think will be very close. Valkyrie haven't had the best of seasons. They've had a mixture of results, but then they have had their good results when they needed to. But then Castletown Celts have really been a surprise package this year, causing a few upsets. It'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. I think Castletown Celts might just nick it,
There are 3 games pushing back at 2:05 in the Premier League this weekend, and one of these, the next one here, this is a big one in terms of where the title might be going. It's Backers versus Vikings at the NSC.
Yeah, big game this. Backers just need to win or draw, and they'll win the league. If Vikings win, they then will play Castletown Celt in a rescheduled game in the week after this weekend. And if Vikings win that one, then Vikings will win the league. But this game has got so much riding on it.
And of course, Backers beat Vikings 6-0 the last time the two teams met.
Yeah, so Vikings will definitely be looking for redemption in this game, and if there's a chance to take the league off Backers then I'm sure they'll be definitely trying to get it.
One of the other games at 2:05 in the Premier League, Backers versus Ramsey at Ramsey Grammar School.
Yeah, this one will be interesting. Ramsey have found a bit of form in the last few games, and Backers have as well. It'll be interesting to see how the two play out against each other. Maybe Ramsey might just finish the season off with a win.
Then also 2:05 over at QE2 in Peel. It's a battle of the B teams. Vikings B against Valkyries B.
Yeah, Valkyries B sadly were relegated last weekend following their results. So Vikings B will be hoping to just go out there and get the win, or Valkyries B will just be looking to see maybe if they can just get a last-ditch result.
Then we move on to Rossborough Mixed Division 1. It's even tighter at the top of the table here. Two teams tied on 13 points apiece, both Harlequins A and Valkyries C. Well, let's take a look at the fixtures that they've got. So all pushing back at 12:35 in the NSC, we have Vikings D versus Harlequins A.
Yeah, and when these two last met, it ended as a stalemate. So for Harlequins A, will definitely be looking to make sure that this ends as a win. There's so much riding on this game, and the next game, Valkyries C against Castletown Southerners, both Harlequins and Valkyries C are level on points in this league. So whoever wins, really, it will come down to the head-to-heads and possibly even the goal differences, but we'll have to see how they play out. And then the final game in this league is Vikings C, who sadly were relegated last weekend, against Battersea. This one will probably be a quite nice friendly game to finish the season off.
Very well, let's move on to Rossborough Mixed Division 2. Well, Mixed Division 2 and Mixed Division 3, the champions were already confirmed last weekend. Castletown Camags crowned champions of Division 2. Let's take a look then at the fixtures in Division 2. There is a massive relegation decider at the bottom of this table, isn't there?
Yep, so at 11:05 at Castle Rushen High School, we have Castletown Cushags against Ramsey Rookies. These two both level on points at the bottom of the table. It could come down to just whoever wins this game, or as we said in our last bit there, could come down to the head-to-heads or goal differences. When these two last met, Rookies did win 2-0, so Crushags will definitely be looking to make sure that they turn things around and, avoid being the relegated team. Elsewhere, at 11:05 at Peel, we have Valkyries D against league champions Castletown Camags. I think Camags will definitely be looking to finish on a high and keep that unbeaten run up right to the end. So I'm going to go for Castletown Camags win there. And then the final game at 12:35 at Ramsey Grammar is Ramsey Ravens, who have secured second place following a midweek win against Vikings Z. This one will probably be a close game as well, but Ramsey Ravens, secured second, and they'll be wanting to finish on a high.
Let's move on to Rossborough Mixed Division 3. The champions, Backers Colts, confirmed last week there is no relegation from this league. So let's take a look at the fixtures we have in this league.
Yep, so at 11:05 we have the champions, Backers Colts, v second place Harlequins B. This game, as we said, it's first v second, but Backers Colts are crowned champions. Harlequins B could potentially, if they win this weekend, end Backers Colts' unbeaten run, which has been running right through this season. When these two did meet last time, ended a 6-4 win to Backers Colts. So, Backers Colts will know what they're looking to do in this game. The next game is Harlequins C v Castletown Cosney. This is a mid-table clash, and, these two, when they last met, it was level pegging, so it's all to play for. But as we said, first and second are decided in this league, so it'll all just be a mid-table clash in this one. And then the final game sees Backers D play Castletown Carrigs. Backers D are bottom, but they're level on points with Valkyries Colt, who have played all their games now. It'll be interesting to see if Backers D can hold Castletown Carrigs and avoid finishing in that bottom spot.
And then last but certainly not least, we have 3 games in the Rossborough Mixed Under-15s.
Yep, so they're all at 3:35. The first one is at Castle Rushen, and that's Vikings v Castletown Sharks. The second game, again at 3:35, is Castletown Savers against Harlequins Under-15s. And then the final game is Backers Under-15s against Ramsey Rogues and Rascals.
Manx Radio Sport.
And finally tonight, it's a packed schedule of Manx rugby this weekend, both on and off island. Douglas, Vagabonds Men's, Vagabonds Ladies, and the Ravenscroft Manx Shield all in action on Saturday. To take a look through the busy schedule, as ever, is Dave Christian.
We'll start with Regional Northwest 2 at Douglas away at Winnington Park. Douglas 2 weeks ago had a big win against Broughton Park at Portishead. That will have given them a little bit of a shot in the arm. They'll be up for this one. They're away from the bottom of the table. And guess what? Who's replaced them at the bottom? Winnington Park. So this trip to Winnington Park is going to be looming very large on the Douglas radar. They're going to be wanting a maximum points away from home just to pull them away from that relegation zone. The third from bottom now. Good news for Douglas, Harry Hewson's back. He had a long absence this season. Initially, I think, if my memory serves me correctly, he was on holiday. Then he's picked up a head injury. Well, he's back in action. He scored in the last outing against Broughton Park. So that's good news for Douglas. The back line, hopefully we've still got enough firmness in the pitch to allow Douglas to use their quick back line. And Winnington Park had not been gone so well. Played 10, won 2, lost 8. It's the same playing record as Douglas. Only difference between them is a couple of bonus points. Douglas have got a good record against Winnington Park as well. On current form, at least, you've got to fancy Douglas to pick up some points away from home. Vagabonds, however, have a much taller order in counties ADM, L3, Lancashire, Cheshire. Vagabonds are away at the unbeaten league leaders Hoylake. Hoylake, I think, have dropped 4 points. They've got 36 out of a maximum 40. They had a 17-all draw against second place Garstang 2 weeks ago. I think Hoylake will be looking to do much better than that. They've beaten Ramsey in the Cheshire Bowl. They've also beaten Ellesmere Port in the Cheshire Bowl. So Hoylake, all things looking good for them. For Vagabonds, not looking quite so good. A lot of commitment from the front five, but outside of that, I watched them against Port Sunlight 2 weeks ago, and they weren't that brilliant. A lot to work on there up at Ballafletcher. This game is away. It's at Hoylake up there on the Wirral, and I think Vagabonds are really going to struggle here, and Hoylake should take maximum points. In ladies NC1 Northwest, Vagabonds back-to-back games, which is very unusual for them, away at Broughton Park. Just lost out against Chester at home last weekend. A last-minute penalty for Chester gave them a win rather than a share of the points. But it's very tight. The top 4 or 5 in this league are all closely linked together. Southport have ran away with it at the top, but Vagabonds are in that chasing group. And a win away at Broughton Park would do them the world of good. Could lift them as high as second place. Broughton Park, however, just 2 points behind Vaggers in the standings, and a win for them would also put them up, I think, as high as third. So a lot to play for between two evenly matched teams. If Vagabonds can get the full-strength squad away, should be okay for them. I think Maisie Murray's due back from injury. She'll probably drop into the front row. Might free up Corinna Daly to start at number 8, where she can use her power off the base of the scrum. This could be quite a close game. Domestically, we also have 3 games in the Ravenscroft Manx Shield. Eastern Barbarians will face Ramsey's Blues down at Portashee. Should be, on paper at least, a straightforward win for the Blues. The Barbarians have been up and down all season in terms of team selection. Ramsey's Blues have been looking quite strong, and I think they should run away with the points. And where we'll be for Saturday Live is Ballakillia Park, Port Erin. We've got 2 games down there. We've got Southern Nomads Greens against Western Vikings. That kicks off at 1 o'clock. We also have Southern Nomads Whites against Castletown, which kicks off at 2:15. So we'll be there hopefully to cover the bulk of both of those games for Saturday Live. We should see a win for the Greens and also a win for the Whites, but that's all going to be down to respective team strength and how thinly Southern Nomads Club has to spread itself.
Manx Radio Sport.
That's all we have time for this evening. Many thanks to my guests this week, Tony Mepham, Ben Cunningham and Dave Christian. Just one final reminder, if you're not heading to the Bowl to watch FC Isle of Man versus Charnock Richard in the early 1pm kickoff in the NWCFL Premier Division tomorrow, we will have you covered. We'll be providing full live match commentary myself and guest co-commentator Sean Doyle on Manx Radio AM 1368 and digital. Well, have yourself a wonderful Friday evening and a wonderful weekend, whatever you're doing. Chris Kinley is with you next, so until next time, bye for now.
Station, Manx Radio.